Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining the press call for an update on the case of John Hernandez. I'll be passing the phone to Jacinta Gonzalez, Field Director for MiJente, who will moderate our call. Jacinta?
Thank you, Bea, and good morning to everyone. Thank you for joining us for this important call. As many of you know, this Friday, July 14th, Perry Thompson and his wife, Shauna Thompson, an off-duty sheriff, will be appearing in court for murdering John Hernandez. Because of the only reason that these people are facing any types of charges is because John Hernandez's family have been in struggle, in a fight to raise the visibility of this case to try to get justice for their family member. So this morning we're going to have a call to give everyone an update on where things are at with those efforts to bring justice and what we can expect in the upcoming court date tomorrow morning. So first we're going to hear from Melissa Hernandez and Susana Santana, who are cousins of John Hernandez. Following them, we'll have Cesar Espinosa of an organization in Houston called FIEL, who have been doing a lot of work to support the family in all of these efforts. And we'll also hear from Randall Kallinen, who's a civil rights attorney in Houston, who is representing John Hernandez's family. And finally, we'll hear from Marisa Franco, director of MiJente, to talk about why this case is of such important national significance. So to start at the end, we'll have time for questions. So we just ask people to hold the questions and have those at the question and answer period at the end. So first we'll ask Melissa Hernandez, if you could please tell us a little bit about what's happening with what efforts your family has been going to try to get justice for your cousin.
Hi, thank you guys for being here and hearing us out. So what we've been doing is we've been reaching out through all social medias, trying to get awareness on the case. Like you said, my family was the one who had to start calling social media. Susana, and she has been a big help getting everyone out here. And we've been doing peaceful protesting, marches, rallies, and we just keep asking for justice because that's what John deserved.
And thank you so much for those. Thank you so much for those efforts, Melissa. I don't know, Susana, if there was something else that you would like to add about everything that your family's had to do to try to get justice in this case.
This has been a work in progress. I guess, like in the beginning, it was kind of more of a quiet type case, and nobody really knew about it until we did start calling the media and started getting more awareness on the case, and that was when they kind of came in and heard us out.
Thank you, Melissa and Susana. We know that you guys will also be available for more questions. And obviously, based on all of the work that you have done, the complaints that you've made, at least 8 deputies are now being investigated by the Sheriff's Department for the handling of this case. So we know that without your efforts, without your voices, a lot of the happened and the injustice that happened, that they would not be uncovered. And these 2 people would not be facing those charges. So thank you for your strength and thank you for your courage. Cesar Espinosa, an organizer with FIEL, will be next. And Cesar, if you could tell us a little bit more about the context in Houston and what's happening, we'd appreciate that.
Hi, thank you for this space and thank you for the media who's on this call. We have been supporting we have been a vehicle for the Hernandez family since the beginning. When Johnny was taken from the family on that Sunday night, we really didn't hear about the case until the following Wednesday morning or so, when the family was actually holding a press conference. So as is FIEL's mission is to be able to support community, what the community has to respond to what the community needs are, we decided to join in the Justice for John campaign. We have been helping the family to do many things, including to get to be able to raise the story in the media and to be able to keep the story in the media so that Johnny's name will not be forgotten. And we have created partnerships with different organizations, and different organizations have taken interest, such as MiJente, which has helped to elevate the story to the next level. What we're doing is we're supporting the family and we know we live in a very conservative state, in a state who doesn't always stand on the right side of justice, doesn't always stand on the right side of history. And so we found it very important for us to join with the efforts of the Hernandez family, who has been an amazing family, who's a family that was already well organized, and to be able to bring their story and to be able to share their story and to be able to not let elected officials just forget about it or just push it up to the side, but rather to bring it to the forefront. In these efforts, we were able to get the case sent over to a grand jury within about a week of the mobilizations that started happening, which is something that was unheard of here in Harris County. When we talked to different legal experts at the beginning, they said it could take anywhere from 3 to 6 months or maybe a year, and we were able to do this within a week. But it wasn't just through FIEL, it was through various factors of the community coming in together, to talking to elected officials, and clearly the strength, the resilience, and the unity of the Hernandez family is what helped to propel this case forward within the bureaucracy of the court system. So we're going to continue to help them out. We're going to continue to help the family organize with the hope that this never happens again. We know that right now during these tough political times, with the Trump administration, there's a lot of people that feel emboldened to take matters into their own hands, which is one of the things that we feel that happened in this case. And we are going to continue to stand up and fight back and continue to protect families so that they will never have to go through this again. So we're going to be continuing in these efforts. We're still continuing the conversations with the Sheriff's Department, with the District Attorney's Office, because we also want to see a true internal investigation happen, or if not, an independent investigation happen, to see why there was preferential treatment for the deputy the night of the event, and why there's, in the public side, there's continued to still be preferential treatment for the Thompsons as they visit court and as the case moves forward. So once again, we are helping to live the family's voice. We hope that FIEL can continue to be a vehicle so that the family can continue, and we hope to bring this injustice that we feel that has happened out into the public eye. And at the end of the day, we want to continue to ask for justice for John, which is a conviction of who we feel are the murderers who took John's life away.
Thank you so much for all of your work, Cesar, and for all of the support that you've been giving the John Hernandez family. Can you describe in a little bit more detail what you understand as being some of the issues that have you concerned about how this case was handled by both the Sheriff's Department and the court system more broadly, and just a little bit of more of the injustice of what happened that day?
So we know that the night of the murder, from what we hear from eyewitness accounts, number one, they were pleading with the Thompsons to release John from the deadly grip that they had, the chokehold that they had on him. Some of the other anomalies that have come up is when number one, the sheriff's office takes about 40 minutes to respond, according to eyewitnesses, and people were calling. The restaurant employees were calling. And it takes them an incredibly long time to respond. Number two, when they do get there, they handcuff Maria, which is John's wife, and they put her on the back of the car, and they confiscate her cell phone, which obviously is a cause for concern. Other anomalies that happen is that you see preferential treatment from the beginning. That night was a rainy night. The Thompsons get raincoats. They get put on their rooftop, while Johnny's families and friends who start showing up to the event, they get pushed away. They get pushed into the rain. So that's some of the things that I've started. We have started conversations with the District Attorney's Office and with the Sheriff's Office, and the way things were handled under the investigation. But there's some serious things here too, very serious things. Number one is that the family believes that Johnny actually perished the night of the incident, but yet he was still transported to a hospital and put on artificial life support. And then one of the clear things that they that they see, and they're very they're questioning a lot, is the fact that the ambulance, when it departs the scene of the crime, you see the ambulance just leave as if it was just a regular day. There's no lights, there's no sirens. So if what they're saying, that they were trying to preserve his life, it's true, then they should have left in the most hurried way possible into the nearest hospital, not a hospital that was nearly half an hour away. There's a hospital that's a lot closer to them. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to, in many of these cases, when you have families of Latino descent or Hispanics or whatever you want to call them, many of the times elected officials or entities try to keep things from them. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to, once again, raise the community's voice and raise the family's voice so that they can get answered to all these questions. So there's many questions still in the family's mind. And at the end of the day, we want closure for them, and we want justice in the form of a conviction for the Thompsons.
Thank you very much, Cesar, for your comments. Obviously, there's both work that has to happen to ensure that there's a fair trial for the Thompsons, but also to ensure that the law enforcement agencies in Houston are also held accountable for their actions in that day. Obviously, all of this has caused the family of John Hernandez to take legal action. And next, we'll be hearing from Randall Kallinen, who's a civil rights attorney representing the family. Randall, if you please.
Yeah, hello, this is Randall Kallinen, and I'm a longtime civil rights attorney here in Houston, Texas, and have investigated many shootings and deaths by law enforcement. Harris County has had a long history of condoning law enforcement related deaths, going back all the way to Jose Campos Torres, which took riots in order for any kind of justice to even begin in that particular case. We have had an unbroken string of shootings of individuals by, for instance, HPD, the largest law enforcement agency in Harris County, without one single, I mean, this is hundreds of shootings, without one single true bill. Now, Kim Ogg, the new DA, ran on a platform of treating police the same as everybody else. And through the efforts of the community and the Hernandez family and the DA's office, there was a prompt but thorough investigation of the matter, and indictments for murder were brought, which is extremely rare in these circumstances. After the event, Kim Ogg, also, the DA's office, also brought forward another law enforcement action, criminal action against an HPD officer, which is basically unheard of. Basically, a lot to do with the political power of the Houston Police Officers Union and law enforcement in general. Now, since the last press conference that we had, we have found many Facebook posts which indicate a bias or a prejudice against Hispanics that were posted by Mr. Thompson. And those include several, not just the usual right-wing stuff of, build the border wall and, so forth, but more harsh, I guess, one might call racist posts, including one where it has Uncle Sam pointing his finger like he does when he's recruiting for the military, and there's the caption says, this finger was not made to press 1 to dial English. A very pointed slur and slam against people who speak Spanish. And so what we see here is elements of bias that may be in the mind of the killer, and so that's what we have uncovered. Furthermore, we have looked into the training of mixed martial artist fighters, and according to his own Facebook post, Mr. Thompson does have mixed martial arts training, and according to those experts, They say that the mixed martial artists are trained such that they know that they cannot have a prolonged chokehold on these individuals, otherwise it can cause death, which would go to the idea that this was purposeful and not on accident. So that's what we have now. Tomorrow will be another court appearance by the Thompsons, and that will be one in a series of different appearances whereby this case will grind its way through the court system. But we will be ever vigilant at all times to ensure that John Hernandez and his family gets justice.
Thank you so much for that update, Randall. Finally, we'll hear from Marisa Franco, Director of MiJente, a national Latinx racial justice organization, to talk to us about why this case is of national importance.
Thank you, Jacinta. I want to start first by extending strength and prayers to the John Hernandez family. I can tell you that I've been personally very moved and very impressed by the way that the family has mobilized and sought justice. When really, this is summertime and families should be planning reunions and organizing barbecues and birthday parties. And that is at the core of why this is such an injustice and why it is such an issue. Our families are very accustomed. It is very natural in our families to experience loss, to experience death. But experiencing loss and experiencing death with such violence and such disregard to human life cannot be ignored. And this family has shouldered that responsibility. And for us as MiJente, and I think for many people across the country, we want to help carry that burden and that load, because the reality is that it's not just happening to the family. This didn't just happen to John Hernandez. This isn't just happening to John Hernandez and his family, but many families are experiencing this across the country, whether it be violence from our neighbors and the people we live in cities and towns with, or at the hands of the police. I think, it bears mentioning that today is the anniversary of the death of Sandra Bland, who died in a jail cell in Waller County, Texas, mysteriously. And I think it's important to raise and remember those of us in our communities and families who have been taken from us before their time. And so that's, this, we look at these different cases, and I think lifting up the specific case of John, we see the impact of the current political climate, words that divide and dehumanize us. But I also want to lift up that this is a product of the political discourse of the moment, but also a product of a justice system that, when it comes to locking us up, races ahead of everyone. But when it comes to providing justice when we have been aggrieved, drags its feet. And that is why this is a national issue. That is why MiJente has pledged to support in whatever way we can, because this is happening to many of our families, because it is not just, and we cannot continue to look away when we're losing members of our community to such violence and to such disregard. And in that spirit, and following the leadership of John's family, we pledge to remember John, to honor John, and to fight for justice in his memory. Thank you.
Thank you, Marisa. And we know that the court date tomorrow, Friday, July 14th, is just one of the first court dates, but many more will come. So we want to also make sure that the press and everyone knows that we will be watching this case and helping spread out the information to make sure that there's visibility, and that there's the law enforcement agencies and the people who support Terry Thompson and Shauna Thompson know that people are going to be watching and demanding justice and supporting the family members in their brave fight. I'm going to pass it over to FIEL, Communications Director for MiJente, to moderate questions from the media outlets present.
Question. Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
I'm calling from Los Angeles LP newspaper. This is Pilar Mateo. For those of us who are not familiar with this case, this is frankly one of the first times I hear about it. Can the attorney or can the family talk to us a little bit more about the way the initial investigation happened? What was weird about it? What was improper about it? A little bit more of description of what happened and what led to the internal investigation going on now.
Yeah, sure.
Go ahead.
Yeah, this is Randall Kallinen, civil rights lawyer. And, what happened was there was some sort of, I don't know what you would want to call it, scuffle or outside of Denny's restaurant, and it involved Mr. Thompson and John Hernandez. And so what exactly started is not 100% clear at this time, but I'm certain that it will be in the future. And so there was that scuffle out there, and almost immediately Mr. Terry Thompson got, who was much larger, by the way, than John Hernandez. And John Hernandez was intoxicated by all accounts, so that made him even weaker. And so Terry Thompson got on top of him. He is a mixed martial arts fighter. He has training in this area. And he got him into a chokehold, which basically cuts off blood flow to the brain by putting pressure on the arteries, as well at the same time preventing oxygen from flowing into his lungs. And plus he was on top of him on his back, so this puts more pressure in the lung area, which, he needs to breathe in order to overcome that. Now, a bunch of people came outside from Denny's and said, hey, you're killing him, you're choking him, get off him, he can't breathe. I mean, this was a whole bunch of people, so there was no doubt that this was occurring, that he was in danger. Now, Shauna Thompson arrived basically shortly after the scuffle started, and she was actually holding on to John Hernandez, too, helping in holding him down. And as a matter of fact, at one point, a witness says something like to John Hernandez, shut up, you already can't breathe. And of course, the importance of that is, she sees that he can't breathe. So later on to say, I didn't know he couldn't breathe, that sheds doubt on that. So all that was happening, and then at some point, John, they see that John is limp and is dead, and so at that point, after he has died, they get off him because he's dead. And so then the other police, more police come, sheriff's deputies of the same organization that Shauna Thompson, the wife of Terry Thompson, is also a Harris County Sheriff's deputy. And then they proceed to do a whole bunch of things which are incorrect in an investigation like this. One of the things they did was, in the most, while John Hernandez was sitting there dead, they call the district attorney of Harris County, not the district attorney, but the assistant district attorney on intake, and tried to get charges put onto John Hernandez when he's nearly dead. And according to the district attorney's office, those deputies did not tell the district attorney that the district attorney on that call that Mr. John Hernandez was either dead or dying. So we see some misrepresentations right away and preferential information. Now, also, there were a whole bunch of eyewitnesses to the killing, yet the deputies failed to get the names, the numbers, and the cell phone videos that those individuals had, and they remained there at the scene. So that's also indicative of them trying to cover things up for their Harris County Sheriff deputies partner. And so those are some of the main things. And then it was negative treatment upon the victim of the wife, Maria Terral, by treating her very poorly, treating her as the criminal, putting her in the back of the squad car for many hours, taking her cell phone, so she was not able to call anybody, an isolation technique that they use, while the killers were able to walk around free and use their cell phones and call whoever they wanted at that time. So we see that the investigation right from the beginning was totally slanted with withholding information, not collecting information. And that's why we feel that from the very beginning, the Harris County Sheriff's deputies treated John Hernandez as the criminal and did not even do a proper investigation.
And I think one of the just one of the important things that we want to reiterate is that the killers got to go home that night, and John never made it back home. So that's something that the family would like to highlight, and the father has expressed that sentiment of that the killers. I mean, even till today, the killers are still free and roaming the streets. While obviously we don't have John with us anymore.
Great. We'll go to our next question.
Hi, this is Steve Dix with Newsfix CW39 in Houston. My question is for Mr. Espinosa. You said that you feel the deputy and her husband were emboldened kind of by the political discourse of the time, and specifically President Trump, to take action into their own hands. What leads you to that conclusion?
In the days following after the death of Mr. Hernandez, we did do a lot of research into the Tom Cesar, into the social media accounts more than anything, and there's videos of them being at a Trump rally. There's videos. I mean, and it just feeds into the sentiment that people should. I mean, we feel it in the state of Texas that people are emboldened by the national politics. And on Mr. Thompson's Facebook page, he had a lot of derogatory comments against people of no descent. As Mr. Kallinen pointed out earlier, there was a picture of Uncle Sam saying this finger is not to, pointing at the screen saying this finger was not made to dial one for Spanish, things like that. So that leads us to of the assumption that because of the FIEL national politics, his agenda was different, or may have been anti-Latino or anti-immigrant.
All right, thank you.
Great, we'll go to our next caller.
Hi, I'm Jolie McCullough. I'm with the Texas Tribune. I was kind of hoping to ask the family, maybe Melissa, obviously there have been these murder charges that have come down, but outside of the trial and outside of the courtroom, what do you hope will come from this? What good do you hope will come out of this tragedy?
We're hoping that the jury convicts both of them with murder, and we just don't want this to ever happen to anyone again. We just want to bring awareness to cases like this, that unfortunately this isn't the first one. Even if we want it to be, it won't be the last, unfortunately. But we're trying to bring awareness, and we just want the public and everyone to see that John was a great person and that he didn't deserve this. We will continue to ask for justice. We will continue to ask for support on social media and everything. And we just, like I said, we just want them to be convicted with murder.
And we'll take one more question. If there are any other members of the press who have a question, you can go ahead and hit *6 to be added to the queue. Otherwise, we'll finish off with one more question.
Yeah. Hi, this is Juan Lozano of the Associated Press in Houston. I just wanted to ask, I don't know who can answer this, but you all have talked about some of the efforts you all have been doing to keep public attention on the case, outreach on social media. I know that there was a billboard that was running in a part of Houston this week about the case. But as well, if somebody could talk about sort of these ongoing efforts to try and ensure that there is public attention to the case, and sort of if they could talk about sort of the difficulties of sort of in doing that nowadays, because I would imagine with these kinds of cases, there's initial attention at the very beginning, but then that attention sort of drops off, and they don't get as much attention from the media, from others, once that sort of attention fades away?
Yeah, I can take that. So it's important for us to make sure that this story, in fact, does not lose either local, state, or federal or international attention. So we have ongoing efforts to contact other organizations. MiJente actually stepped in, which is they have a national platform, and the family and us, we are also very grateful to them for continuing the conversation and helping us to amplify the message. So part of but I also want to give credit to the Hernandez family. They have been undaunting in their efforts to keep John's name out in the media, John's name out in the community. There has been a lot of fundraisers that are being held for Johnny for different aspects of the family. For example, there's a benefit concert coming up for a college fund for his daughter. So this is also part of the community coming together for the community, saying as a whole that we do not want Johnny's name to be forgotten, but at the same time, when the question was asked earlier, what do we want, is that we would hope that even though this is a terrible tragedy that the family has faced, we hope that this encourages other people who have suffered similar things to come forward and to also join the fight for justice for all people, for our community. But we're also using the tools at our disposal. So if you guys refer to the Justice for John Facebook page, there's over 15,000 likes on it. We're using social media, broadcasting the events that are happening on the ground. Tomorrow we'll have a live broadcast from the courthouse. So we're using the tools at our disposal to make sure that the message stays elevated and that we take the message also to the next level.
And that represents our last question for the call. So Jacinta, I'll turn it back to you.
Great. Thank you everyone for being on the call. Again, special thanks to Melissa Hernandez and Susana Santana, not only for being on the call, but your ongoing efforts to bring justice for your family. Please know that you have our support and that we'll continue to be able to do whatever we can to bring attention to this case. For local media, as Cesar was just saying, please know that the family will be rallying outside of the court tomorrow at 8:30 a.m. And also that you can get any sort of updates from facebook.com, Justice for John Hernandez. Is the page that has a lot of updates, and we'll be talking about some of the fundraisers that Cesar had mentioned as well. So thank you again, everyone, for participating, and we'll stay in touch.